Fido, and welcome to the Pantheon, where today we're going to be having a look at one of the brand new legendaries from Strixhaven, who's an uncommon. Now, uncommon legendary is generally pretty rubbish, but this one is really quite cool. So let's have a look at Rootha, Mercurial Artist. She's 3 mana, so, you know, I do think Rootha sounds like a very green name. Should be sort of tending to plants, but neither here nor there. 3 mana, very recastable. Her abilities are pay 2, return Rootha Mercurial Artist to its owner's hand. Copy target instant or sorcery spell you control. You may choose new targets for that copy. Sadly, it's not any instant or sorcery, but you can't have anything. Finally, she's a 1/4, so she's going to dodge a good amount of removal. Any sort of bolt effects aren't going to wipe her off the board. So, that's Rootha, and she's really quite fascinating. We're going to be having a lot of fun doing different little fork-based things with her. So, without further ado, let's have a look at a top 5. Coming in at number 5, we have BURREL, Chief of Compliance. 2 mana for a 1/3. Instant and sorcery spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. Whenever a spell or ability you control cancels a spell, you may draw a card. If you do, discard a card. So the main reason we want to be playing these sort of effects is we want to reduce the cost of instant and sorceries, because the instant sorceries you want to be copying are the big expensive ones. So make them cheaper. You can then use your commander to copy them. Quite a cool little idea. To go along with this, Goblin Electromancer is a 2 mana 2/2 that just says instant and sorcery spells you cost 1 less. Exactly the same as BURREL. Cloud Key, rather interesting card. 3 mana. When it comes in, choose artifact, creature, enchantment, instant or sorcery. So for this deck, we're generally going to choose instant or sorcery. Spells you play the chosen type cost 1 less to play. Finally, Jesus Sanctum, 4 mana. Instant sorcery spells you cast cost 1 less. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, scry 1. Nice little bit of a card selection, and we can get through our deck to get to the better instant sorceries. Which brings us on to number 4. Jeska's Will. Now, not a very expensive spell at 3 mana, but it's one that we really do want to be copying. Choose one. If you control a commander as you cast a spell, you may choose both. Add red for each card in target opponent's hand. Exile the top 3 cards of your library. You may play those cards this turn. Now, the reason we want to play this with our commander is if she's on the field when we cast it, we get to choose both modes. Then, when we activate it and copy it, we copy every mode that was selected. So, Jeska's Will generate us a boatload of mana and also exile 6 cards. To go along with this, there's a lot of good big mana spells that we can copy. And we want to do this because then we can storm off, we can replay our commander and then potentially play another massive spell. Brass's Bounty is a 7 mana sorcery. For each land you control, create a colorless treasure artifact token with tap, sacrifice this artifact, add 1 mana of any mana to your mana pool. The reason that treasures are so powerful here is because we don't have to use them that turn. With Jeska's Will and a lot of these other cards, the mana will go out of our mana pool that turn. But with this, we can maybe do a setup turn and then we've got a bunch of mana for the next turn. Seething Song and Mana Geyser, both big mana spells. Seething Song, 3 mana instant, add 5 red to your mana pool. Very simple, but if you copy it, then you've got 10 mana in your mana pool. Mana Geyser, 5 mana for a sorcery, add red to your mana pool for each tap land your opponents control. We're going to have 3 opponents. They're going to be playing spells and tapping their mana. This is going to generate tons. To go along with this, we have a couple of smaller rituals, Pyretic Ritual and Desperate Ritual, exactly the same card, apart from Desperate is Arcane. 2 mana instant, add triple red to your mana pool. So if you have the mana reducers, they're reduced by 1, and then we can copy it with our commander to end up with 6 mana. Stormkiln Artisan is a brand new 4 mana dwarf, who's a 2/2. Gets +1/+0 for each artifact you control. And Magecraft, when you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, create a treasure token. So if we're casting a lot of little instants, we're going to be generating incremental amounts of mana. Brings us on to number 3. Dragonstorm. Now, these are the big sort of spells that we want to be casting. Dragonstorm is a 9 mana sorcery. Search your library for a dragon permanent card and put it onto the battlefield. Then shuffle your library. Storm. When you cast this spell, copy it for each spell cast before this turn. So, we're going to build up a good amount of storm count, dump a load of dragons onto the field. But what dragons? Well, the Niv Mizzets are our go-tos in this deck. Niv Mizzets all have a variation on when you draw a card, it deals 1 damage to something. So, Niv Mizzet Draco Genius, 6 mana, Legendary Dragon Wizard, flying. When it deals damage to a player, you may draw a card. Then you can pay 2 mana, deal 1 damage to target creature or player. Then Niv Mizzet Parun, 6 mana, it can't be countered, flying 5/5. Whenever you draw a card, Niv Mizzet Parun deals 1 damage to any target. Whenever a player casts an instant or sorcery spell, you draw a card. So these turn are Brainstorms, which is a 1 mana instant, which draws 3 cards and then you put 3 on top. We're going to be drawing a ton of cards, pinging loads of people for damage. And because we're going to be drawing off instant and sorceries, we can copy them, potentially draw more and more cards. Bonus Round is a great copying spell, 3 mana sorcery. Until end of turn, whenever a player casts an instant or sorcery spell, that player copies it and may choose new targets for that copy. A great card that you might want to copy, Ancestral Visions. It's blue, and it has Suspend for a single blue for 4 turns, which means that each upkeep you remove a suspend counter on it, and on the last one, you just cast it for free. Target player draws 3 cards. So, using our commander, we can copy this, target ourselves with both copies, draw 6 cards for just 2 mana and returning our commander. 1,000 Year Storm is a 6 mana enchantment. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, copy it for each other instant and sorcery spell you've cast before it this turn. You may choose new targets for that copies. This just gives every instant and sorcery in your deck Storm, and it gets out of control ridiculously. If you have about 8 bonus rounds on the stack, and they all resolve, what the hell happens? Who really knows? Finally, number 2. Sneak Attack, which is a rather interesting card to put into your, spell-slingery Storm deck. Sneak Attack is a 4 mana enchantment. You can pay a red. You may put a creature card from your hand onto the battlefield. That creature gains haste. Sacrifice the creature at the beginning of the next end step. The reason we want to be doing this is our commander, the ability that she has, the pay 2, she returns herself to your hand. So using something like Sneak Attack, you can pay a single red to put her onto the field at instant speed, and then return her back to your hand and do it again. So potentially, if you've got a big spell on the stack, you can put your commander in, return it, put your commander in, return it, put your commander in, return it, copy it 4 times, which is absolutely phenomenal. It's just so cool. To go along with this, Aether Vial is a 1 mana artifact that reads, at the beginning of your upkeep, you may put a charge counter on Aether Vial. Then, you can tap it. You may put a creature card with converted mana cost equal to the number of charge counters on Aether Vial from your hand onto the battlefield. So if we get this up to 3, we get a free put-in of our commander at instant speed, uncounterable, every single turn. It's just wonderful. Then, to go along with Sneak Attack, why not play a bunch of massive creatures? Blightsteel Colossus, 12 mana for an 11/11 with Trample, Infect, and Indestructible. If we put into your graveyard from anywhere, reveal it, and shuffle into its owner's library. Then, Perforous Bronze-Blooded is a 5 mana legendary creature enchantment god with Indestructible. The devotion thing we're not really bothered about, we're not going to have too many permanents, but other creatures you control get haste, and you can pay 3, you may put a red creature or an artifact creature from your hand onto the battlefield. Sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step. So we can dump a Blightsteel into play and just murder someone. Aether Vial, you're going to have to tick it up to 12 counters to get Blightsteel in, but maybe that's something you want to be doing. Kozilek Butcher of Truth and Ulamog the Infant Jaya are absolutely massive Eldrazi's with Annihilator. They have cast triggers, so we are going to generate a ton of mana, so the likelihood is we can cast these, but putting them into play with Sneak Attack is just as effective, as we're going to be annihilating our opponent's boards. Then, Steel Hellkite, 6 mana for an artifact dragon with flying, can pay 2 to give it +1 so until end of turn, or pay X, destroy each non-land permanent with converted mana cost X, whose controller was dealt damage by Steel Hellkite this turn. Activate this only once each turn. So a nice little board wipe attached to a big flying dragon. Which brings on to number 1, and this spell is the spell that you want to copy with your commander. Eternal Dominion is a 10 mana sorcery. Search target opponent's library for an artifact, creature, enchantment, or land card. Put that card into play under your control. That player shuffles his or her library. Then it has Epic. So, Epic reads, For the rest of the game, you can't play spells. At the beginning of each of your upkeeps, copy the spell except for its epic ability. You may choose new targets for the copy. So, why do we want to play this? Well, our commander, using the sneak attacks and stuff like that, we can put it in for free without casting it, and then we can copy sort of whatever we get, or, just attack with our big dudes that we end up drawing. But Eternal Dominion, the epic ability, it only happens on the first time you cast it. But if you copy Eternal Dominion, each of those copies has epic. So during your upkeeps, you'll get 2 triggers of this, or 2 copies of it, or potentially even more. If we manage to copy this 3 or 4 times while it's on the stack, we get 4 things every single upkeep, which is just so cool. To go along with this, we've got a couple of other things that can copy. Mirari, 5 mana. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, you may pay 3. If you do copy that spell, you may choose new targets for that copy. Twincast, double blue, instant, copy target instant or sorcery spell. You may choose new targets for the copy. And then Echo Mage, who's a 3 mana 2/3 with level up. If he's at level 2 or 3, you can pay double blue and copy target instant or sorcery spell. You may choose new targets for that copy. If he's at level 4 or plus, pay double blue, tap him, copy target instant or sorcery spell twice. You may choose new targets. If you manage to get these off on Eternal Dominion, it is just phenomenal. And you should win that game. If you don't, you're probably too far behind anyway. But it's just such a cool spell to be copying. And with that, those are the top 5 cards that I've chose for this commander. If you've got any other suggestions, I'd love to hear them. And thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe and bye.